Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Football Heritage TV. You're joined by the best duo on YouTube. It's Lubo and Savva for a nice morning chat. Happy Monday. It's Monday, isn't it? Happy Monday, Lubo. Happy Easter still. How are we?
All good, alive and above grounds. And it's match day.
It is match day. It is match day. It might not be, but it just feels to me. I don't remember us playing on a Monday for a while. I might be wrong. I just can't remember it. Anyway, can you remember any Monday night matches we've had lately? We tend to play on the Sunday, don't we, and the Thursdays?
Yeah, last Monday I can remember, I think, was Fulham last season when we won 2-0 in October.
Jesus.
I think I might be wrong.
Yeah,
but that's the last one I can remember on Monday.
Yeah. Good. Sorry, Corey saying no sound. Can everyone else hear us? Can everyone else hear us when you're saying no sound? My mic is. You can hear me, Lubo, right?
Very clearly.
Right, everyone in the chat. Yeah. Corey, dude, it's your speakers, bro. It's your speakers. Today, let's have a little look. First of all, let's get some good news out of the way, Lubo. We're going to get the good news out of the way. And I want everyone in the chat to get excited by this. Spurs are now officially safe from relegation. Come on. We've done it, guys. We've done it. We can't get relegated. So this is good news for Tottenham today. On a serious note, Lubo, everyone else has played and we play today. We've got Nottingham Forest. And the debates are kind of rumbling on. We'll get into it in a minute. The debates are rumbling on about, do these league games matter versus don't they matter? And some people are like, I just don't care now. It's back to the Europa League. I want to talk about Sonny. Ange's had a lot to say about Son, and this is the best time now. He's had a foot injury for a while. Best time to rest him. Lots of substitution, lots of rotation is meant to be going on tonight, but still apparently, from what we're hearing, no Archie Gray. Going to look at the Forest game in its entirety. So lots to go on, Lubo. But let's start with, it's crazy that we are 32, 33 games into a Premier League season and the posts I'm seeing flying around is, don't worry, we're officially safe from relegation. And I think that sums up the last year, doesn't it?
Well, what about the one from the post from Twitter that I put on our group chat today about one, he makes out he's Angepostecoglou. He's obviously an Ange fan, just asking for apologies from everybody because we avoided relegation.
It's
there you go. That's the level. That's the level.
So let's I'll tell you what, before we get into the game and stuff, let's talk about that because Lubo, we go into today's game. Look at that. We are, and by the way, Lubo, I'm putting this out there. If West Ham didn't concede that 93rd, 92nd minute goal to Southampton, Tottenham right now would be 17th and only worse. The only three teams worse are the bottom three. So when people talk about apology forms, honestly, the world's got to grow up a little bit here, hasn't it?
Well, listen, I think, if you want to be glass half full, we beat Forest today. We beat Brighton on the last day of the season. We've got 4 points to make. We've got 4 games to make up 5 points on Brighton. So,
I love it.
To get 10th. So,
Love it. I mean, what's crazy is, I could almost accept it if we were 11th, and a chance of top 7 or 8. But we are 6 positions off Brighton, who, let's be fair, Brighton are in free fall, but we're still 6 positions and 9 points. Maths is terrible there. 11 points behind Brighton. And the reason why they're the benchmark here is because that's the top half.
Yeah.
We're 11 points off the top half of the Premier League. And you've got fans out there asking for apologies because we won a game against Frankfurt.
That was your 1 point from 7 league games, wasn't it? And that's what has absolutely killed and destroyed the league season. Was that 1 point out of 21? You think if we'd have got another 10, where Spurs have been, we'd have been on 47 points. Would have been at least challenging for a Conference League position.
Exactly. You look at Leicester at home, Ipswich at home, I mean, how many teams have lost
Wolves
at
at
home?
home, 2 point. Wolves, in fact, Wolves 5 points. Really, we were dreadful, weren't we?
Yeah,
Wolves, we should be beating Wolves. So you got 5 points there, 5 points from Leicester, 3 points. That's 13 points just from those 3 games.
Yeah, it's mad.
Those 3 teams rather 13 points. So and then you got other games that we really shouldn't have lost. That's even Newcastle away. We shouldn't have lost that game. Really shouldn't have done. So it's cool. It always keeps us up in the segment. Absolutely.
But look, it's mad. Also, rest in peace to the Pope, who woke up this morning to the news that the Pope has passed away. So rest in peace to the Pope. In football matters, but it is mad. I mean, I get, you can imagine, Lubo, the bigger my channel gets, the more messages I get. And the number of messages I'm getting at the moment going, you're wrong about Ange. And I'm like, 16th in the Premier League. I'm not sure I am too wrong about this manager, but whilst the Europa League is there, there's always going to be this kind of, I don't want it, the word isn't
juxtaposition.
It was. Okay, there's the right word. Yeah. I'm from South London, so sometimes when I try and be too clever, it doesn't work. But it is that juxtaposition, isn't it? Of if we hadn't have beaten Frankfurt, it's the worst season ever. But because we've beaten Frankfurt, suddenly people want apologies for a manager that's lost 17 in 32. But look, let's look. I want to bring this comment up. I like this person. I don't know who this person supports, but I do find them funny. Said, is today another free hit, Savva? Now, Lubo, this is an interesting talking point because I've seen this a lot throughout this season. I see this a lot. I remember before FA Cup against Villa, we're talking about free hit. Before Liverpool League Cup semi-final, we're talking about this is a free hit. This is a free hit. We've had a lot of free hits this year for a team that aren't doing very well, haven't we?
Yeah, I think I don't see it as being a free hit. I think if you made five or six changes, I think the level that our players generally have played to this season, I don't think anybody can say there's a massive drop.
No.
To be honest, so you put Spence in for Porro, you put Richie in for Solanke, you put Kulu in for Maddison. Both of their stats are pretty much the same this season. Thank you, Arsenal, for securing our Premier League status. Absolutely. Yeah.
Arsenal kept us up.
Where's Angus? I want to thank him.
Yeah, where is he? Angus.
Yeah, where's Angus today?
Angus.
You bring in, okay, midfield, I think, though, those 3 are the strongest 3. Rather, with Sarr and Basuma, I think, at the moment are a long way behind Bentancur, Maddison, Bergvall. So for me, if you make 5 or 6 changes today, the level of the team hasn't dropped that much. To me, it hasn't. It's pretty much the same. You take Vicario out, there's a drop down. You take Van de Ven out, there's a drop down. But to me, if you bring Richie in for Solanke, me, there's no drop.
I don't think it's a drop. I don't think it's a drop. Yeah.
No. So if he does rotate, Sam, I've got no issue. Dan So for me has been really good when he's played before he got injured.
Can I tell you, Lubo, what worries me more than the rotation? What worries me more than the rotation is he going to rotate tactics? Do you know what I mean? That's the bigger question, Lubo. Are we going to see Thursday night tactics, or are we going to see gung-ho tactics like we did against Wolverhampton Wanderers? Or like which tactics are we seeing? And let's be brutally honest, this is a Nottingham Forest team that have a lot to play for. I don't know the exact numbers, so if there are any Forest fans, which there probably are a few, I've seen a few floating around in my chat lately because of my mate Wolfie and Ant. This is the first time, I'm guessing, in about 20-odd weeks that they're not in the Champions League spots.
Yeah.
Right? This is the first time, morning, James. This is the first time. By the way, when I put myself alone, it's not stand out. It's so that I can point at comments, just in case anyone ever wonders why I do that. This is the first time. Forest are now sitting in 6th, Lubo. Chelsea overtook them with their late 2 goals last night. Villa are level on points with Forest. So this is now a massive game for Nottingham Forest coming to Spurs. This is huge for them.
And they're coming off of three defeats, is it?
I think it's
I'll
2.
find out.
I think it's 2. I might be wrong.
Let's have a look. So Nottingham Forest games were scores and fixtures. Where are we? Is it April today? April. So they lost to Villa, lost to Everton. And the game before that, they beat Man United. So they've lost 2 Premier League games in a row, and it's seen them go from 3rd to 6th. So this is massive, guys, for them. It's going to be a huge game.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's either going to work in obviously one or two ways. They're either going to step up or crumble. So,
Agreed.
I mean, I know that's obviously black or white, but yeah, I think it's going to work, step up or crumble.
Yeah. No, you're right. Why don't I support Charlton, you South Londoner? Brilliant. Is this the level of intelligence we've got in 2025? Well done.
Bromley?
Do you know what? Well done to your parents. Huh?
What about Bromley? Bromley can be your second club.
If we're going to play this game, do you know which was the closest club to me growing up?
Go on.
Miss. Millwall fan. Probably have had less heartache as well being a Millwall fan. But look, guys, this is what I think makes it interesting tonight. I don't ever want to see Tottenham just roll over and get our bellies tickled. I've never been that guy. I don't think it's fair on the people that pay as well. I don't think it's fair on those people. A lot of these people are normal, hardworking individuals that all their money goes into paying for Spurs, for them, for their kids, whatever it may be. I don't think we should just accept that, the league's done, come and tickle our bellies, Forest. But James, we know what Nottingham Forest are going to do. We know how Nottingham Forest are going to play. They are going to be in banks of 4, hard to beat, and then they're going to break with Alanga, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, and Wood as the focal point. We know how they're going to play. So how are we going to set up, James? Which Spurs are we seeing tonight?
Yeah, I mean, the first point where you're saying about fans paying and it's not fair that we just don't turn up. I mean, I was offered 2 free tickets and I didn't want to pay for the travel just because I don't know. I'm a good few hours away, so I didn't want to make that kind of commitment. So I can only imagine how people feel when they do turn up and they're around the corner and they have to pay all their money to watch the dross that they've been served up week in, week out. It's just not fair. As for the team, I'm going to say it again, it's almost like boring. I don't know. I think that's why I can't get on board with Ange more than anything. I just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to set us up attacking. I would absolutely love him to go back to the Frankfurt and just say, you know what, we're going to sit here, not lose, and see how we get on. That's what I would like him to do. But I don't know. I can't. We're either going to win 4-0 or lose 4-0. That's how my head says.
Yeah. Oh, here they are. Jeff's definitely a Nottingham Forest fan. Jeff, tell us in the chat while I ask Lubo, what are you expecting? Are you going to crumble? Or are you going to rally? What's going to happen with Forest? But Lubo, James is right. You don't know what you're going to get from us. For me, I want to see pride. I want to see these last 6 games. We're going to lose some. We're going to. We've got some good teams. We've got. If I'm not lying here, we have got we've got Liverpool in the top 6.
Yeah.
Forest in the top 6. Villa in the top 7. You've got Brighton in the top 10. And then Palace and West Ham. So I'm not expecting us to win them all, Lubo, but it would be nice for us to show some fight and passion, wouldn't it, in these last 6 games?
Well, if they're going back over the previous game on Boxing Day,
YouTube,
we had 70% of the game. I think from 60 minutes onwards, it was one-way traffic. And over the whole game, Sells made 3 superb saves from Johnson that won them the points. So, I came away from that game thinking, Jesus, how have we lost this? Because we should have got something out of it, definitely. So I don't see him changing the way he normally plays. This is the way he does it. I think with Frankfurt, he had to sit back and play a counter-attacking game. Same at Brentford, who have got a very strong home record, and the same at Man City. So I think that was possibly forced on him, and he'll probably play that way if he's got a decent lead at Bodo Glimt. So, and he'll be forced into doing that. I mean, it's going to be party time at Anfield next week.
Can I can I just add with a team what what I would like to see happen personally is I either want to see 11 changes, so literally the whole team changes, and he says, you know what, I'm saving it for Europa League and I'm just going to play every kid, if that's what he's intending to do, or he plays our strongest team. They are the two options for me, because they're the only two options I can get on board with. I can't get on board with playing Bentancur or Bergvall gets injured, but I was resting a few players and not the others. I'm either you're going all in for Europa League or you're going all in for everything. So for me, I don't want to see 5 or 6 players dropped and then we lose the game 1-0 and go, oh, well, we was missing some players. I would rather him say, you know what, I'm dropping everybody and we're going with youngsters and playing Mikey Moores and the likes of those, or I'm playing my strongest team. I don't want to see any mismatched team, to be honest.
Well, what is a mishmash team? I'll say
where he's been dropping, say for example, playing Archie Gray at right back. He's not a right back, so don't do it. If you're going to play him, drop everybody and play him in midfield. Yeah. If you're thinking Bergvall's a starting 11, drop Bergvall. If you think Solanke's going to start in Europa League, then drop Solanke. Whoever you're kind of intending on playing and using to go forward, I personally would say, you know what, let's drop all of those guys and wait till the Europa League, or you play all of them and keep, because how I work is when you drop a few, it's just, I mean, nothing changes, it's all bad, but I'd rather see all of them dropped and saved for one game, because then I think that doesn't dent confidence. Whereas if you play 4 or 5 first teamers and you lose, I feel like that still dents confidence.
Well, you can do what Amorim did yesterday, and he played 2 new kids. He gave 2 kids their debut, didn't he?
Yeah.
No, but okay, but yeah,
that's not Ange's style, is it? I mean, could you see a JE starting the game on the right and
Mikey Moore on the left?
No, but what I was saying before,
you couldn't see it.
James, what I was saying before was that you can see Dan Sofa Romero, Spence for Porro, Kulu's going to come in for Maddison. You can see Richie for Solanke. You can see Odebear for
Hell or Son, whoever.
Well, Son is out, isn't he? Son won't be playing.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying, like playing left. Sorry, like obviously replacing those guys.
I mean, for me, I played Mikey Moore on the left side, and I played Gray in midfield.
Would you really? Would you actually play Gray
today? Definitely.
See, I kind of agree with James. I kind of feel like you're in or you're out. You're all in or you're all out. I don't understand this notion that we're going to play half the... I hate this notion anyway. Lots of notions here. This perceived first team. So we all know his first 11, right? I think we can all agree his first 11 is Vicario, Porro, Van der Ven, Romero, Adogi, Bentancur, Bergvall, Maddison / Kulu, depending now Kulu's back, and then it's Johnson, Solanke, Son. That's his 11, right? I agree, James. If you're going to go with something like that tonight, go with something like that tonight. If you are going to drop 4 or 5 of them, sod it. Just go, right, I'm having Moore, I'm having Odebear and Richie. Gray's going to play in midfield alongside Sarr and Basuma, and I'm going to put in Ben Davis, Spence, Danso, Kinski, and we must have another left back somewhere or a defender in the cup. You know what I mean? Regulon. But if you're going to do a half and half measure and someone gets injured, like you know me, guys, I don't like the excuses. If a player gets injured, a player gets injured. That's life, right? You can't, like yesterday, Arsenal played Saka. He got that really bad foul on the back of his ankle, didn't he? It was a naughty tackle from Leif Davis. These things happen. But one or the other, I don't want to see this kind of half-hearted, well, this is half of our best team, half isn't, and then the excuse from the fan base and from Ange is, well, we had to rotate. Well, what does that mean? As though the first team wins week in, week out and rotating kills it. I'm a bit baffled by the whole situation, if I'm honest.
I think it's the only, I mean, not to get fans on side, and I'm only speaking for myself here, obviously, but if he played 11 kids or 11, under 22s or whatever we're going to go with, and we lose, I'll be like, okay, fair play. You've played the kids. It didn't work, but good to see. Good to see how the next generation are getting on. Obviously, they're praised really highly. So for me, it would be like, fair play. You lost 2-3-1 or 2-0, whatever. The kids did well. He did well. You can then kind of criticize things. If you play your first team with a few rotations, it's just like, well, Ange should be winning that game again, shouldn't he? If you lose, it's like, well, he should be winning. So for me, I think the only way to build momentum is to swap the whole team around. And if they lose, I don't think anybody would be there going, oh, for God's sake, we should have won that, blah, blah, blah. He can then have a conversation in the backroom staff and the players and say, look, boys, we are rested now. We are going all in for Europa League. I don't care about the Premier League, and I am going to play all the kids. I'm going to get much experience out of people as I want. God forbid he's going to stay next season. Just say he's going to stay. He can say, right, Star, you're probably not going to be in my team, but here's the next 6 games to prove your point. If you don't prove your point in the next 6 games.
But if he did that tonight, right? Again, devil's advocate. So tonight he goes with that team and we all go, cool, don't worry, it's a different team. Are we then saying that against Liverpool, 4 days before, it's 4 days before the Europa League semi-final at home, right? You then, what do you then do? Do you then revert back to your best team 4 days before? Do you keep that team out?
I would take kids, yeah.
Okay, but then now you've then got that whole first 11 going in, not having played for 2 weeks. And that can be good for rest, but it can also be bad for fitness. It can be bad for match fitness. It can be bad for consistency and momentum. So
I'll play devil's advocate again.
Go on.
And I don't see how form and consistency is going to help them when you're losing every week anyway. So I think if you avoid the defeat,
I agree.
Probably could do a lot more benefit. That's what I'm saying. It all depends on how Ange now manages behind the scenes and says, if he sat them all down and said, look, it's game over, Premier League's over, there is absolutely nothing to play for. I'm going to rotate all 11 players and we're going to see what happens. Show me what you've got. I personally am okay with that. I would love to see Mikey Moore for the last 5 or 6 games. I would like to see Odebert, players like that. I would be happy with that. So again, I can only speak for myself. I just think let's not get these defeats racking up. If we lose our next 2 games before going into Europa League, I think that's a highly likely chance. And I would rather not have an excuse, but have like, well, the kids were here. I'm just doing what we can, and our focus is on Europa League.
But let's say it is a team like this, Lubo. Let's say it is a team. So Ronnie's saying this team is doing the rounds. Listen, we never know, right? You never know these days. There's so many different bits of information. But let's say this team does do the rounds.
Yeah.
This isn't a team full of kids. This is an experienced team. Other than Gray, right? And Tell. This is an experienced football team. This is, Danso's an international. Davis is. Spence is 24, 25. Basuma and Sarr are now not kids. Like they're senior. Kulu, Richarlison. This is should this be? Would you pick this team tonight? If you saw this team tonight, Lubo, would you be happy? It would mean playing Gray at fullback again.
I wouldn't be losing my head over it. I've got to tell you something. All the other teams are not picking up points around us. So I mean,
What do you mean picking up points around us? There's only one team below us that isn't getting relegated.
No. I put us in a 5. We're in
to West Ham, by the way. Thank you to West Ham.
Yeah, absolutely. I put us. There's us 5. Then there's the next 5.
Yeah.
And there's the next 5, and then you got the top 2 and the bottom 3. So they're in groups of 5 at the moment. If you look at the points, there's a big gap, I think, between where are we?
Yeah.
Between 8th and 8th and 7th, isn't there? You got 8 points.
So Bournemouth down to Palace are in like their own little race for a European spot, right? Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then Everton down to West Ham are just they're all in a race for somewhat pride, salvaging a bit of pride. I don't know.
And I know Everton are on a good run of form, but aside, and Wolves have won. I think Wolves have won the last 6, haven't they?
Wolves are 5. Yeah, hang on. Let me change this 1 second. Let me. That should be right. Yeah, Wolves have won their last 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So you look at this group, a couple of wins, and Spurs should finish 13th. They're right, they're down there for a reason. They're down there because they're inconsistent. They're not down there. Okay, Wolves are in a good run at the moment, so they may well pull closer.
Who are our wins coming against though, Lubo? Where are those wins coming from? Because as much as I think one thing that James said there just struck a chord. It's all well and good, when we talk about the league not mattering anymore and all this kind of stuff. You can't just keep going into these competitions off the back of wins, but multiple defeats. At some point, that lack of confidence is going to hit you. I don't think it's going to really matter massively for Bodo. I do think we'll beat Bodo comfortably at home. Yeah. But you can't be going into a Europa League final like off the back of 3 defeats at the end of the season. You can't, that's not good for anybody's morale and confidence, is it?
No, but I do think, James, I was saying before you came on that the level of the players' performances this season hasn't been of the such, like when Poch had his best 11, Harry had his best 11. If you made 5 or 6 changes, there was a massive drop-off. I mean, I remember at West Ham, the year Leicester won the league, if we'd have won that day at West Ham, we'd have been top. That was the one occasion we could have gone top that season. And he played Trippier and Davis instead of Walker and Rose. And the drop-off was just immense. And we ended up losing 1-0. There isn't going to be that sort of drop-off if you play Danso instead of Romero, if you play Spence instead of Porro, if you play Richie instead of Solanke, if you play Kulu instead of Madison, you're not getting a drop-off. So for me, you're rotating, but you're not dropping the level of the team.
But you are dropping the level of what is perceived to be the best 11 when they all fit together as a cog, right? So we know that the 11 that he likes, when you rip that apart. Look, Lubo, you know me. For me, I go full strength. For me, I go full strength. We don't play Bodo for ages. I think everyone's making out as though we're playing Bodo Glimt in 3 days.
No.
We're playing Bodo Glimt in 10 days' time. I would go full strength. Give these fans what they deserve, for me.
But you could have a situation like with Arsenal yesterday. Arteta's saying, don't worry, Saka will be fit. He's been hit with a really bad tackle. And all of a sudden, Saka is now touch and go. And if Arsenal lose him for PSG, that is a massive loss for them.
Yeah, but what do you do then? Wrap every player in cotton wool every season? Because this is my point, Lubo.
No. Hang on one sec. Arsenal are playing to consolidate and finish off their Champions League pursuit for next season. I mean, they're virtually there. What are we doing? 13th or 17th? Seriously.
But you'll be the first to have a go at Daniel Levy if he don't spend money. Yet every league position we finish lower down the table is 3.1 million. So
that's right. But the difference
between 17th and 10th, 17th and 11th, we're now talking 20 odd million pounds.
No, we're talking the difference between 13th and 17th is 12.4 million. And European Champions League football is 50 to 70. So
I get that, but this notion that every player needs to be wrapped. The difference for me is this: Bukayo Saka is a top footballer, right? Bukayo Saka is a match winner. He is a top player, better than anything we've got at Spurs. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but we have got nothing to the heights of Bukayo Saka. They are playing in a Champions League semi-final, right, against PSG, one of the best teams in the world. We are playing at home to Bodo Glimt. None of our players are match winners. There is no one in that team where you go, if he doesn't play, other than Mickey van der Ven, there is no one that I look at in that team and go, if he doesn't play, the thing crumbles, because it doesn't. It doesn't crumble.
I think you are right, but I think there's obviously levels to it. So Arsenal have got PSG. So if Saka's not there, the likely chances of them not winning is dramatically dropped. I think if we lose Mickey van der Ven and James Maddison, the massive chance of us not winning, for example, drops massively. Whether that means that
James, I said
match winners are. No, I'm just saying. Vicario, say for Vicario then. Say Vicario and Maddison or...
This is the same James Maddison that most people have been telling me all year is overrated, not that great, and that Kulu's better. So you've got Kulu. So my point is this. We don't play them for 10 days. How much do you want to wrap these players in cotton wool for Bodo Glimt at home with their 3 best players suspended? Like, I feel like we're going.
For me, it wasn't about the. I know, obviously, Lubo said about the injuries, and that's a fair point. But for me, it wasn't about the injuries. For me, it's about not losing. And even if they're first team play, I just still see us losing a good chance tonight. We're definitely losing against Liverpool. So for me, it's more so keeping the best players fresh and hungry, and not we've lost again, and then the fans are going to get onto their back because they've lost again, and rightly so. For me, it's almost. I would rather them be swapped and play the kids for 2 games, go into it fresh. And I think it actually ends the whole, where we are in the league conversation and bag negativity over the club, even though it's absolutely disgraceful. I think he's just saying, well, that's that, end of, and off we go. I know you said about the money and slating Daniel Levy. I come on your show a week ago, and said, for me, the last 2 years, Daniel Levy gets no criticism, barring potentially pushing the boat a little bit. Because for me, Ange spent a hell of a lot of money, or Levy has spent a hell of a lot of money on Ange, and Ange has fouled. So for me, the blame is on Ange, not Levy, for the last 2 seasons. This club, for me, should be top 5, in my opinion. If with a different manager, and I know that'd be the next sort of stick to bash him with. Well, he hired Ange. Fair enough, that's true. But for me, I think if we win Europa League, that makes up for the money that we don't get if we finish in 17th or 15th. Or
do you know what the prize money is for winning the Europa League?
No, but it's the money for playing in the Champions League, isn't it?
That's 5.
Oh, so you're talking about next season's Champions League revenue versus I get that. I completely get that. But my point is this: for a team that have been so bad this year, right? Look at it this way. Let's say we don't win the Europa League, and all these games we've just played the kids in and around, right? So you're going into games with Mickey van der Ven hardly played any football at all. Right? Let's be fair. We talk about wrapping Mickey van der Ven up, but you've got to get minutes in your legs. There is the flip side to resting players is you've got to get minutes into them. You've got to get minutes into these players. You've also got the notion of, what if we don't win the Europa League and we've played all these kids and suddenly we're finishing 17th? I don't then want the excuse from people to be, yeah, but we only finished 17th because of the Europa League. For me, if we're going in the Champions League, guys, and this is where I find it really difficult when speaking to Spurs fans, right? When you're in the Champions League, you can't just be resting people the weekend before. You've got to put your best team out. Yeah? Look at Aston Villa this year. Aston Villa have had to go Champions League, Premier League, right? 8 times this season, plus all the FA Cup games they've had because they're still in that, right? Aston Villa wanted to get in the Champions League to do that. What we will have next season is Tottenham will have a Champions League game midweek if we get it. And our fans will be going, well, it's whoever. We're so belligerent to all these other teams. It's only Forest. It's only Wolves this weekend. We should be resting our players for PSG in the Champions League. You can't do that. Top teams don't do that. The top teams put out good teams week in, week out. Why are we suddenly thinking that it's okay to just put all the eggs in? I just don't get it. Just for me.
But for me, we're not a top team. That's the difference. We are no longer a top team. And if we don't win Europa League, for me, again, I pray that Ange is gone. I think that is the only justifying saviour. It just proves that everything that he's done has done nothing. For me, it is Europa League or bust. For him, even just keeping his credibility, because you don't take a team like this and finish 17th. Because, for example, the next guy comes in and takes us up to 6th, 5th, 4th, wherever. That just hinders him hugely. So for me, everything has to go in the basket of the Europa League, because
Sure, but these players, they can't go in cold. Sure, right.
Hang on, Sav, keep this no nonsense thing on here.
Yeah, I'll keep it up.
I'm not saying there shouldn't be a pride, work ethic, good mentality. All these players should go out there, and I don't think there's a drop off if Richie comes in. I don't think there's too big a drop off if Danso comes in for Romero. Certainly no drop off if Spence comes in for Porro. And Kulu and
that's not what the narrative will be. The narrative will be he's made 6 changes. What did you expect?
But
for me, with the changes,
it's a squad game. It's not a team game. How many times we look back at Harry's team, we look back at Poch's team. We didn't have this strength and depth in those years, and we suffered badly when it came to the back end of the season. The team's burnt out and they dropped loads of points. So for me, if you play Richie today instead of Solanke, I'm sorry, there's no drop off there.
No, that's
for me.
fine.
I'd rather have Richie in. I'd rather have Spence in than Porro. This is not dropping off. This is not rotating as people perceive it. When people talk about, rotating for me was 9 games, was 19 changes at Fulham, 18 changes at Galatasaray. That's rotation.
I agree. Lubo, I agree with you. But if that's the case, then if we do that and then lose to Liverpool and lose to Nottingham Forest, I don't want everyone's excuse to be it doesn't matter because we only care about the Europa League. If there is no drop-off, there should be no reason tonight why we can't beat a Forest team that have just lost the last 2 games in a row. I'm not disrespecting Forest. They're a very good outfit. But we can't be making those changes. And then at 90 minutes, when we're annoyed, you will turn around and go, oh, we're all negative in here tonight because we've lost yet another Premier League game.
No,
so we can't have our cake and eat it.
If you're looking at our performances this season in the league, seriously, how many would put money on Spurs getting 3 points against Forest and Liverpool in each game? Seriously. Nobody would expect Spurs to win with a full-strength team.
I understand that. I'm just saying our fan base can't make up its mind what it wants. All I heard forever was when these players come back, we're going to be better. Now these players are back. We're now talking about wrapping them in cotton wool so that they can have a 2-week rest before we play them against Bodo Glimt. No offence, but Bodo Glimt are terrible on the road. They are not good away from home. Go and look at their away form. What are we wrapping players in cotton wool for?
With obviously what you're saying there and playing devil's advocate about rotating players. I mean, not devil's advocate, but about rotating players. For me personally, it hasn't been the youth that have been the problem. I don't think it's been Archie Gray and Danso that's been the problem. I actually think they've been our better player. Well, maybe not Archie Gray. I actually think that they've probably been our better players, to be honest. I think the Bentancurs, the Basumas, the Solankis, the Sons, they have been our worst players. So for me, I don't think the rotated players of the youth have been the problem. That's why I'm open to see what they could do. I actually think it's the so-called fringe players, if you like, or starting team. They've been the problem.
But you know what, James? Wouldn't it be nice to see... Listen, we all know his first 11. Do we all agree with that? That we know that he knows what his first 11 is?
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
Pretty much.
Okay. Wouldn't it be nice to see Mikey Moore and Gray, let's use Gray and Moore as an example. Wouldn't it be nice to see Mikey Moore and Gray play with that perceived first 11? Wouldn't it be nice to see Gray drop in alongside Bergvall and Maddison, with Moore dropping in alongside Solanke and Johnson, so that you can go, right, what we've done is we've kept the same 11. These two, you're now with the big boys. Sure. What we'll do, we'll make sweeping changes. Then we'll go, yeah, but they haven't had a chance to play with all the other players. It's just excuse after excuse.
That's your ideal scenario, isn't it? For any kids in any team coming in, you bring 2 of them in, and you keep your full strength side. But listen, it's Ange makes decisions. I find a lot of his team selection very, very strange. It's so for me, make the 4 or 5 changes tonight. I don't think it'll make that much difference. Maddison's quite right. Maddison's not available anyway. Sakulu will come in. Richie needs minutes. Danso needs minutes. You know, God forbid you get an injury in Bilbao, and these boys haven't played for months. They've got no minutes under their belt. You know, you throw Danso in without any minutes, and you throw Richie in with no minutes. You know, that's not going to help.
Let me flip this then. So let's assume, and I've already said for anyone that I'm playing devil's advocate, I've already said I don't expect us to not be in the final. That's a real backwards way of saying we will be in the Europa League final, in my opinion. So after we've played those 2 games against Bodo Glimt, we've then got, if I'm not wrong, is it 3 Premier League games between that? Okay, so we'll have 3 Premier League games between beating Bodo Glimt.
Two before the final, because Brighton's after the final.
Okay, so we'll have 2. I'll chuck Brighton in. So we'll have 2 games before and 1 game after the Europa League final.
Correct.
So for those 2 games before the Europa League final, what are we saying? All of these senior pros that we want to be up and at them, ready to go and Bilbao for a cup final, are we wrapping them in cotton wool for 2 weeks again so that they've not got that?
What I would do,
momentum and impetus.
My honest opinion is what I'll do is I'll pick up our first 15 players and I'd send them all to a training camp in Dubai and then just put them through fitness and then let them come back. That's what I would do, because like I said, for me personally, the Premier League's done. The only bit of justification I would like to see Ange do is actually come out and actually for once stick to what he says and says, look, the Premier League is done. I'm playing all my kids now. We're going for the Europa League. That's the only thing I would like him to do personally, because there is no joy in it left for me in the Premier League. Even if we win 1-0 or we beat Liverpool 1-0, there's always going to be a catch. Oh, well, Liverpool have already won.
What would you do at Liverpool? This is a game
I'd play the kids. I'd play the kids. I'd literally say, listen, boys, this is going to educate you more than anything that you're going to get going out on loan, playing for these guys. Go out and show us what you can do. This is why I'm hoping that the conversations behind the scenes have said, look, boys, the first team, forget it. Like, we are going now for kids. And then I almost say to the kids in the reserves, look, this is your chance to prove to me. I know it's stupid, but that you're good enough to be at this football club. If not, you're all going to be sold. Obviously, hypothetically thinking that he's going to stay next season, like along those lines. So for me, you have to put all eggs into this Europa League basket. I think that if we don't win our next game in that cup, then there's nothing falls short of an absolute disgrace. We should definitely be beating Bodo Glimt. So for me, it is literally all or nothing. Genuinely, play the kids in every game and come out and address it before you do it and say, listen, all my eggs are in the Europa League basket. That is the trophy we're going for. I'm going to be playing kids. I'm going to be seeing how they get on, seeing if they're actually good enough to play part of the future. Because let's be honest, if they put the kids out and they lose 5-0 to Nottingham Forest, 5-0 to Liverpool, 5-0 to Brighton, 5-0 to Aston Villa, at some point you have to kind of go, these kids ain't as good as you think that they are. I know that it's harsh to judge them because of the teams we're playing, but you need to see something to say, okay, he's got a little bit about him. And that's the only way I believe he gets away with it. Because I think if he plays his first team and we lose anyway, which is what I predict, I don't see how that benefits us at all, losing 2 games and then going into Europa League and then coming out and losing a game and going back into the Europa League.
Yeah, and flip that, James, flip that. This is the problem. Don't forget, we are on the verge of our highest ever defeats in a Premier League campaign. Do we really just want to stick the kids out and say, go on, let's just lose games so that we break our unwanted record?
In my opinion, yes, because it will be one of the best trophies we've ever won also. So you could flip it and it would be one of the best trophies we've ever won also. So there is obviously the negative side.
Why do the senior pros playing on the weekend mean that they can't beat Bodo Glimt on the Thursday? Why?
No, it doesn't. I'm just doing what I would do. It doesn't mean that at all. I'm just saying, from my personal opinion, that's what I would do, because I just think that the losses are taxing. You could see every week there was a different player arguing with the fans. They are taxing. They are going to be getting into the players' heads. So just take them away from that pressure and that sort of unwanted stresses. That's what I would do.
The only 2 players in the squad that aren't getting regular games at the moment are Graham Moore. There's hardly any kids in his main squad.
This is my point. Which kids? Let's ask then, James. When you say the kids, what sort of 11 are you talking about? Because who are the kids?
Well,
hang on. We keep talking about we've got a youth project. I don't see many kids in there. Most of our kids are out on loan. Other than Moore, who doesn't play, and Gray, who we signed. What kids?
I would play like the likes of Moore, Odegaard. What's the young lad that come on and
not
scored?
A kid, is he? Odegaard's now had 2 seasons as a Premier League footballer, right? He's a France under-21 international. It's not like,
no, but he's still. Yeah, no, I agree, but he's
a first-team player.
All right, so then maybe kids is the wrong thing to use. It's more the guys that are kind of got to try to prove a point that they've got a future at the club. So like him, I'd love to see that young lad that come on and scored the goal against. He come on right. Yeah. Why not? Why not? That's what I would do personally. That is exactly what I would do.
What I would do would be just to play Graham Moore for one game. You bring 2 kids in, like Arsenal brought in Wary and Lewis Skelly. Just 2 kids at a time. That's because to me, as I said before, you just chop and change between several players, and for me, there's very little difference, if any, with our squad. There are no outstanding players, majorly outstanding players like we had Kane and Son, prime Son a couple of years ago. We've got nobody at that level. So, Danso, Romero, then Danso, small drop off. Danso could come in. He's more than adequate in our 11.
Yeah, I just look. What I find interesting about the whole thing, though, is, I believe in momentum. And this whole stop-start fragmented nature that we want. I don't know. I don't actually know who it does any good to. I really don't. I don't want us going into a final, and the 2 Premier League games before that, those players weren't playing and they didn't have any minutes in their legs. And okay, let me put it like this: when a striker scores a hat trick, do you want to be dropped the next game, no matter who you're playing?
No, you don't.
So when players play well, like they did the other night,
he did that with Odegaard, didn't he? Odegaard scored 2 the other week, dropped him.
He's done that this year to Odegaard. He's done this year to somebody else as well, who grabbed a couple of goals, I remember, in a game and was then dropped. For me, it's about momentum. And I feel like this stop-start nature, I don't think it's good. I genuinely don't think it's good.
What my obviously counteract to that would be, what momentum are they getting when they're losing every week?
Which again is a good point. You know what? This isn't a black and white discussion by any.
No, it's not. That's why for me, we are. I bet that we're going to lose our next 2 games. Is it good to have 2 games before going into the biggest game of the season, or is it best to say, you know what, we've rotated. You've almost taken away the stick that people are going to bash him with.
But you won't, because some of them will still be in the team, and the rest will all still be on the bench. You're making it out as though none of them will be in the match day squad and coming on the pitch. So what will happen is, in your theory, right, we put a weakened team out against Liverpool, for example, right? If Liverpool got to 3 or 4-0 up, which isn't out of the realms of possibility, Ange would bring on the Bentancurs. Yeah, he would bring on the Romeros. He would bring on to try and steady the ship. So now it doesn't matter. You've tried to rest them. They've now played a bit of the game. They've now lost. So that whole they're losing. I think what you're talking about, James, is you seem to be saying that it feels like there's 11 different players that we don't know about in the squad that should all come in and play. Lupo hit it right. They're all playing. They're all getting minutes.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I would literally rotate the whole lot. I know what you said there. Andrew would then swap and bring in a Bentancur, but that's not what I'm doing. Whoever's not going to be playing.
James, what Sonny and Madders are out. Sonny and Madders are out anyway. What's your team?
More. I would play someone like Richarlison. I would play him because he's.
Go from the keeper. Go from number 1.
A goalkeeper. I don't think goalkeeper matters, but I would play Kingsley anyway. Right back, I would probably go with Spence, Danso, Trying to think centre backs who we got. I'm not sure on the other centre back, but I'd play Davis left back. I would play Gray in midfield. I mean, you could probably get away with playing someone like a Bergvall. He's a bit younger and fitter, but then, yeah, listen, I'm not doubting. I don't know who's everyone in the squad. Yeah, I don't know who. James, if I had the squad up, I might be able to.
James, you've talked about sweeping changes, but the problem is most of those players, you know, the ones that you've mentioned that are obvious, like Danso coming back into the team, Davis, Kinski. After that, all of the others, Lubo, I hate saying this about Lubo, 100% right. They've all been playing loads. Spencer's been playing. But then
I would play people I forgot about, like Regulon. I play him left back. I play Timo Werner up front. Like these games are non-existent to me. They're non-existent to me. I would rather they now sat back, save these guys for what they're going to do.
Surely you'd have, if you're going to play a front three and change it from the other night, surely you play Odegaard, Ritchie, and Moore. For me, that's
that's what I'm saying. It's well, I'm open to that. You know, I think didn't Odegaard play Cam before? I think Odegaard's played Cam, so you could almost play Lucas Bergvall. I mean, Bazuma or Sarr are never going to play, so you could play one of those. Then you could play like Odegaard at Cam. There are things you could do. I just think the main core 11 or 12 players should just be rested. What's the deal? If we win this game, then what? Well, we should have won that game. Then you lose to Liverpool.
Can we stop talking like we're Millwall? Like, what do you mean, win this game, then what? We're Tottenham bloody Hotspur, right? We had a fan base of people talking about top 3, top 4. Now we're talking about win this game, then what? I don't know. Maybe some feel-good factor. Maybe some pride. Maybe the fact that we're a professional Premier League outfit. Maybe momentum. Because, guys, I think you're really underplaying the need for momentum going into big games. I really think
So what momentum did they have going in against Frankfurt? What momentum have they had going into Frankfurt? What momentum have they had all season?
Sure, but come on, one game, James. One game where we've just sat back and defended. It's not.
No, but every game before I don't think we've won 3 games in a bounce this season, have they? So what momentum have you seen or you're hoping for that I haven't seen this season?
But that's what I'm saying. Get it from the Frankfurt game. Get it again tonight with Forest. Get your 11 out there. Build that momentum. Drill in those tactics. But what will happen, James? Here's the problem. This is my biggest issue. Whichever 11 we talk about, here's my problem with it. And I don't know if Lubo and Alex agree with me. If he makes sweeping changes tonight, if we go 7 changes tonight, for example, they're not going to set up the way they did on Thursday night, right? So now we're back to the gung-ho. Now it's just pathetic again. Why wouldn't you want to build a little bit of momentum? Keep drilling in what we did on Thursday night. What I don't understand. We don't play them for 10 days.
That's not what I want, mate. I'm looking at the system as Angie's still a manager, so no matter what I want, it's not going to make any difference. I would love us to say, you know what, Frankfurt, we won that game, we controlled the game, we were solid, very professional performance. Let's build on that. But you know he's not going to do that. I know he's not going to do that. Everyone knows he's not going to do that.
I know he's not going to, but that's not what we're talking about. But it's not.
What I'm saying is, if we're going by what we're expecting him to do, then no matter what happens, we're going to lose the next 2 games, and then we're going into Frankfurt on 2 losses.
But if he did what he did on Thursday night against Forest, why would we lose this game tonight?
But you just said you know he's not going to do that.
No, James, you're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm saying we should be doing that. That's the point. I'm saying we should be doing that.
We should, but we're not doing it.
You're saying we should make sweeping changes and go back to gung-ho football. And I'm saying...
No, I never said gung-ho football. I never said gung-ho football.
Yeah, but that's what he'll do if Van der Ven, Romero and Udogie and Porro don't play and Bentancur sitting in front of them. That's exactly what we're going to go back to.
I agree. But even if they play, he's going to go back to that anyway. Like, what have you seen this season to say that he's changed it for more than one game?
You're not getting that. But my point is that's what we should be doing. This is the whole point.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
You're not. You're saying.
No, because what I'm saying is what we should be, if we was going to do that and revert, we say, for example, again, Frankfurt, we're going to say, right, how we performed on Frankfurt. If Ange now every day up until this game has gone, right, that's what worked, let's do this and this, I'm all for the first team playing, because I'm all for us trying to actually go for wins and try and get their wins and seeing different performances. But we're not going to. Ange is going to go out there, go gun-ho football, whether it's the youth or whether it's the first team. And I personally don't want to go off of the back of 2 losses with our first team into the biggest game of the season. Like you're saying, momentum, I think it can also work the other way when you lose and then going into the biggest game. God forbid you don't win that, and then you've got to lose. And then
James, ask any of these pros, ask any of these pro footballers what they would want in an ideal scenario in the next 2 weeks. Ask any of them how many of them wouldn't want to play for 2 weeks going into a massive game. And I guarantee you 0%, I'm going to go that, I'm that convinced by this, 0% would sit here and go, yeah, I don't want to play against Liverpool and Forest. But all of them, bar none, would say, I want to play. I want to play. I want momentum. I want fitness. I want confidence. They want to play.
You keep saying momentum. I don't get where you're getting this from. Based on what? What momentum?
James, sometimes it doesn't have to be team momentum, individual momentum. Get it in that, like with Van der Ven, right? With Van der Ven, you saw it last week. He was asked about not playing. What was his answer? You'll have to ask the manager. He wants to play. Momentum, getting match fitness into his legs. Momentum, build him up. 60 minutes here, 70 minutes there. It's not just momentum about winning. Momentum for players, muscle memory, fitness, being hot, being ready to go. Can't just
I agree with that side.
Wrap them all up and then wheel them out and go on, perform. None of the footballers think like that. It's fans that think like that. Footballers don't.
I agree with you. But what I'm saying is I just would rather not go into that game on 2 losses. And especially you're the first team, because I think momentum can work the other way. And I think if momentum was going to work like that.
We play a weaker team.
Yeah, but then at least it's like, well, that wasn't, the players could be selfish in respect to go, well, that wasn't on me. We've rotated a lot. And could try to deflect it.
Some part. But this is where it doesn't make sense, James. This is what I just said. Even if you go weaker against Nottingham Forest or Liverpool, those first team players are still going to make up the bench because they are our squad. They will come on inevitably. If we're getting beaten 2 or 3-0, Ange isn't going to sit there and just let the B team get beat 2 or 3-0. Inevitably, he will bring on Porro and Bentancur and Bergvall and Solanke and Maddison. He will bring them on. Then they're playing. Then there's the risk of injury anyway. This is why it doesn't make sense.
I'm not bothered about the injury side of things. I'm just on about getting. I would like us not to have more and more defeats. To be honest, that's where I'm at, and I think that I would.
Have defeats. I don't get it.
But I think if the majority of the first team ain't in the starting lineup, I think that would be better because there's not an excuse, but he's got that. Well, I'm playing everybody else in different positions and using the youth rather than my first team. That's just my opinion. Listen, if I was coach, I wouldn't even have him there. I'd have him playing the way we played at City, where we're defensive and using the counter-attack. We've got the perfect counter-attacking team. But for me, I also think that momentum can work the other way. And I think that you come off of 2 losses, the fans are going to be screaming and shouting again. Players are going to be arguing with fans.
We're going to come off with 2 losses anyway if we go weak against Liverpool and Forest. This is where I can't understand your argument. You're saying don't play the first team because we'll lose and they won't have confidence going in, but play the B team. We're going to have 2 defeats and still going into that game. I don't understand. When did we turn into such a frail-minded club that we feel that we need to wrap mediocre players in cotton wool?
When Ange took over.
But why do they need to be wrapped in cotton wool? Why not play them? Why would we not want to play our best players in a game in the Premier League?
Because they haven't made any difference this season so far. So what does it make any difference?
Pride. Some pride.
But by playing them, what pride are you gaining? The youth or the fringe players have been the better players all season anyway. So what pride and stuff are you gaining from playing the so-called first team?
Do you know? And this is exactly why we shouldn't be in the Champions League next year. This is exactly why we should look at our mindset as a football club, and it's now in the fans as well. Don't worry. Let's just put out the kids. We'll lose the next 2 games.
Say for example we do say we do what you say, yeah. Say we go full strength and Van der Ven gets injured, Vicario gets injured,
That's football.
and
Football.
Bergville. Yeah,
That's
but that's a
football.
very Well, I would rather not roll the dice like that and say it's football.
Okay,
That's my opinion.
So James, how do Man City win trebles every year?
You're talking, but you can't talk about
Hang on,
Tottenham and Man City in the same conversation.
But if you don't cut me off, you'll let me finish my point. How do Chelsea win trophies every year? How do Arsenal? How do Liverpool? How do Man United without these top players have been winning trophies? Right? We can't just say, oh, every time before a big game, we're going to rest everybody for 2 weeks. This is madness. How have Aston Villa had such a good season this year? Even before they bought in their three or four signings in January.
Didn't they play a lot of fringe before they went into their Champions League game?
They were playing their best team in the Premier League, their best team in the Champions League, and getting results. No, I didn't hear any of them going, but what if Watkins gets injured? No, Watkins is their number one striker. He played every game. Why is it
You're talking about good teams with great coaches. You're talking about good teams with great coaches.
That's got nothing to do with anything. What's that?
Has everything to do with it, because it doesn't matter who we put out, we're losing regardless. Has everything to do with it. If we had Emery in charge of Tottenham, for example, you could guarantee that there's going to be a game plan and there's going to be structure to the way you want to play. And the way, for me, I can't talk about any of those other clubs in the same vein as Tottenham Hotspur, because there's nothing similar. Nothing.
Look, this is spot on. If ever there was a casing point about how you do not want players going in cold to a final, we had a 3-week break between the Premier League ending, no games they played. And we went in, it just looked shambolic. Right? Why do we not? In fairness,
though, that's a very naive way to look at it, because we were shambolic all season. It wasn't one game that we went into and shambolic and we was fantastic all season. That was like Potter's worst season he had under Spurs before getting sacked. So again, there's context to all of that. It's not we was fantastic, had a 3-week break, turned up and was rubbish.
So next season, when we're in the Champions League, you're saying we rest players before every Champions League game?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm hoping that we get a new manager and there's structure to our way we play, and we can build, like what you're saying, momentum and going forward with that. For me, you need a decent coach to start from the top and it's official down into the squad. We are dealing in circumstances where we have Angepostecoglou as coach and the guy's clueless.
Look, I'll leave it there. I'm just the mentality of this fan base. We don't deserve good things. We don't. We're so weak. We're so weak. 2-week break, and we want to rest everyone. 2 weeks.
It's not like that. And no disrespect. This isn't digging you out. But if we lose, you'll just go, yeah, well, that's what I said. I told you we're going to lose anyway, and it kind of just backs your conversation more. So it's kind of a lose debate. Well, if we play our first team and then lose, for example, in Europa League, you'll go, well, Ange's in charge. We know this guy's rubbish. He should have been sacked ages ago. So it kind of just fits into your argument of everything's crap. For me, we've done that all season. It's been crap. I would rather roll the dice and save it and go and try something new. Save them. What harm could it do? We're going to lose.
Try something new 2 days before 2 games before a semi-final. Like isn't this what all season is for? To try something new? Isn't this what Coventry City is for? To try something new? Isn't this what Karabag is for? To try something new? Like I genuinely don't get it. As I said, James, ask any of the players if they want to be rested. Ask any of the players if they want to be wrapped in cotton wool. We're so scared of players getting injured. Players get injured.
I haven't once mentioned anyone getting injured. Not once.
Okay, so if we're not worried about them getting injured, why are we not playing them?
Because I don't want them coming off of another.
You did just say about getting injured, because I said play the best 11, and you said
I was using your phrase because you said you'd play your best 11. So,
yes,
but I personally wasn't batting from that side. I was saying I think losing the next 2 games 3 or 4-0 with our first team would do more damage than it would playing the youth or the younger kids or the fringe players.
Why would our first team lose 4-0 to Nottingham Forest? All due respect, why would our first team?
Did you see us against Wolves?
Lose 4. It wasn't our first team. Why would our first team lose 4-0 to Nottingham Forest?
Because we're awful. Under the system that we play, I think the low block counter attack is our weakness. I think you could quite happily lose 4-0. So you're saying you could never see them out in a scenario where Nottingham Forest beat us 4-0?
Not if we play that 11 and the style from Thursday night. No.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're moving and that style. That ain't his style. That ain't gonna happen. You know that. I know that. He's gonna go back to what he normally does.
I genuinely don't get it. I don't get it. As I said, professional footballers, athletes don't want what you're asking for. This is the thing. As fans,
I don't want what I'm asking for.
Hang on. Well, you do, because you keep saying for it.
No, I don't. I said
yes,
with
you
and
do.
no, I don't.
Said,
I said
them in cotton wool. You said play the kids the next 2 games.
Because I don't want him to. That's what I would do in the circumstances with and. It's not what I want. It's what I would do. I want us to be going full every game and building momentum, like you're saying. But unfortunately, we have a manager in Angepostecoglou who loses every week for fun, as you can see by the fixtures and stats and results. I would rather avoid defeat for the first team. Just let them go on holiday. I couldn't care. That's what I would do.
Savva. Hang on, Max. 1 sec. I'll bring you in. But James, again, as we just established, when we asked you what team you would put out, after about 4 new names, you struggled to name who these players are. So your theory of these players won't have played in those 2 defeats, so won't be going in with no confidence.
But it wasn't after I looked at the squad.
Let me finish. Right? You said, yeah, those first team players won't have played in these 2 games, so won't be going in with lack of confidence because they've lost 2 games. Who is playing then instead of these players? They're going to have to be in the squad. They will be in the 20-man squad. They will get minutes. So
I don't think he's defending it. I don't think he's defending Angepostecoglou here. I'm actually hearing what
I'm not saying he is.
Yeah, but I'm saying that I see what James is saying here. I was just going to leave you 2 to it. I was leaving you 2 to it, and I'll come in. That was until you brought me in. But I hear what James is saying. Like, I don't think he's defending the whole thing. I just think he's looking at it from Angepostecoglou's point of view. He's sitting there saying he knows exactly what he's going to do. He doesn't believe what's happened with the Thursday thing. What happened Thursday, he just thinks it's going to go back to what we were doing.
With all due respect, I'm not naive. I understand exactly what he's saying. My point is, when Lubo and I asked, what 11 are you putting out then? After about 4 or 5 who don't ever play, the rest is going to be made up by players who always play, who will be playing against Bodo Glimt. So those players are going to be involved in defeats anyway. If they're involved in defeats anyway, why not play them?
But why? But like I said, once I got the squad up, you could have Kingski, you could have not Poro, you could have Spence, Danso, Davis, Regulon, Timo Werner, Pape Sarr don't play, Archie Gray don't play, so he could go in. There are players you could rotate and play the whole lot. Like the league is done for me personally. Like, what are we going to do? Just go in from more defeat, and then we'll just bash him with the same stick that we've bashed him all season. For me, it's a lose-lose situation. But I would personally rather play as many as we can. People that don't play ain't going to affect it too much, and then just save them. And like I said, that all depends. That all depends on the guys. That all depends on how good he is at talking to the first team behind the scenes. If he sat them down and said, "Boys, look, forget about all this Premier League from now on. We're going to win the Europa League. You boys are going to win the Europa League. I'm going to be saving you. You may have a 10, 20-minute cameo here or there, but the main thing is the Europa League." That's what I would be doing personally.
Okay, so just to confirm, you want our first team going in completely cold with no football for 2 weeks in a semi-final of the cup?
They definitely wouldn't be starting any of the games. No, whether they come on for 10 minutes is different. But that's absolutely, yeah. That's how I would. That's how I would go.
I think James. I think there's got to be competition for places. So players have got to be playing. To get in. But the problem with a normal manager, that would be the case, and you say, fine, you go in, you're all playing for your places. But this guy doesn't do that. Spencer.
And this guy isn't even guaranteed to be here next season. The players are not stupid. They know he's not going to be here next season if they don't win it. So you're going to go, yeah, let's have competition for play. Let's see who's going to start. As soon as he leaves the room, they're going to go, this guy ain't going to be here next year. I ain't doing shit for him.
James, the problem is there is no competition for places. Spence was superb. Spence was our best player for 3 months and gets dropped for the biggest games. And so what you would ideally want is everybody pushing to play, pushing to show the manager that they're worth a place in the team. The problem you've got unfortunately, is that you know that Ange won't change, bar the 11, the best 11 that Sav mentioned before, Madison, Kulu. There might be a point for Johnson Odebear as well. But apart from that, you've got your first team. And everybody knows that. And that's also a big problem. What's going to be interesting?
These players don't want it. The players won't. What James is asking, not just James, what James and many in the chat are asking for is coming from a place of emotion as a Spurs fan. As athletes and professional footballers, Lubo, none of those players would say the best thing for me is to not play a game for 2 weeks and then will me out to play. They want
also, though, that's an opinion, not a fact as well, isn't it?
James,
you haven't spoke to any of our players in our club to say it's a fact they all want to play every week. You haven't done that.
Oh, James, right? When I worked for Charlton, right? Let me tell you something. When I worked for Charlton Athletic, when they were in the Premier League, do you know how pissed off players get when they're called in and told they're being rested? When they're called in and told they're not in the squad for the weekend? When they're told they're on the sub bench? These are men with egos. They want to play. They want to play every game. Solanke, for example, will be itching to get a goal from open play. He will be like, I want to play. I want to play, right? Bergvall, he's young. He's hungry. He will want to play every game at the moment, right? This is not, James, this is what football fans say. Trust me. Go and watch every interview with every footballer. Every one of them, what's the first thing they say? I want to play. How did you feel about being on the bench? I was annoyed. I wanted to play. None of them want to sit on a bench. None of them would want a 2-week break. You've got to go in warm. You've got to go in momentum. You've got to go. We're talking about 2 weeks. 14 days is a long time to not play a game of football. I just don't understand why. This is Bodo Glimt. It's Bodo Glimt. We're talking like we're playing Real Madrid.
But with Tottenham Hotspur this season, the last 2 seasons, are one place above relegation. It is what it is.
There we go. How many are fans for the rest of the night?
I don't blame.
That's stupid. That's the most pointless comment I've ever met.
Why?
They're fighting for Champions League. We've got nothing to fight for in the Premier League.
We've got a lot to fight for. This is the mentality, the weak mentality.
Stupid. You can't even compare that comment. That's stupid.
But James, again, this is where football fans, don't actually think about the bigger picture, right? It's all well and good saying it doesn't matter if we lose the next 6 league games and finish 17th. It matters to all of our finances for next season, right? Every single position in the Premier League is 3.1 million, right? You want to fight tooth and nail for as much money as possible because if I talked, Lubo, we talked about this the other day. But the thing is, James, a football club needs it. Without going all Sean Butler, big up Sean wherever you are, the football club still has to make as much revenue as possible to compete. So when we get into the Champions League next year and people are going, we didn't push out that extra boat on this player's wages. Well, sure, we've just finished 17th, right? Our fans didn't want us to try and win the last games of the season to get up to 12 or 13. Let me finish, right? This is the thing. Fans only think about one thing. Our only thing is winning the cup. But if we win that Champions League, right, we're then going to say we've got fans like me who want Ange sacked. Is that fair, guys? Loads of us want Ange gone anyway. Yeah. Right. If he wins the Europa League or not, how much we got to pay to get rid of Angepostecoglou?
10 million.
A lot more.
10 million. Where does that 10 million come from? Right? That's money made. That's revenue that we've not made because we were busy going, just play Timo Werner.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure you'd earn a lot more money by winning Europa League and then qualifying for Champions League and having Champions League money. No, it's not 5 million because you'll have Champions League money next season.
Yeah, but you don't, James, I don't know if you understand how it works. You don't get all that money up front.
No, but you're going to benefit the club in the long run by winning Europa League. The difference, the best we could probably finish is 13th, the best. So you're talking of £9 million.
For the last months or so, these league games don't matter. It's what we've been like for months. These league games don't matter.
I haven't. I'm talking for me.
You're doing it right now.
Yeah, I am now. Yeah, but I haven't been talking like this for months. I've been saying let's build momentum and go, and that hasn't worked.
I just don't get it. We're not thinking about the bigger picture as a football club again.
But you're talking about finishing 3 places up high now, which is £9 million, for example. Yeah, £9 million here.
Yes.
Well, if we qualify for the Champions League, if I'm thinking of the bigger picture, the money we're going to earn next season is going to be a damn sight more than £9 million. So who's thinking of the bigger picture now?
Yeah, but
I
James,
think you're saying this.
James, you're still thinking of just one thing. I'm looking at both. I don't get it. Why does playing your best 11 against Nottingham Forest 10 days before a semi-final compromise that semi-final? It makes no sense. It's
Angepostecoglou that compromises it for me. And that's what I said right from the beginning. Because 2 losses going into a Europa League, in my opinion, is never a good thing.
I think you're saying, are you saying it more to do
but
with the team?
We're going to lose them anyway if you put a weaker team out.
Based on what?
James, are you saying this because of the way we play?
Players and the weaker team as such have been our better players this season.
So you think if tonight against Forest we go with Kinski, Spence, Danso, Davis, and Reggie, you want Werner to be up front, Mikey Moore, Ajayi, Gray, Sarr and Basuma, you'll think we're beating this very well organised, well-drilled Nottingham Forest team?
I don't care. We're going to lose anyway.
But James, see what you've done there is a straw man. You said they've got a better chance anyway. The younger players have been doing better.
I never said they had a better chance. I never said they had a better chance.
Hang on, I'm so confused. We're talking about not wanting to lose 2 games going into a European game because of confidence, but we want to play the lesser players in the squad because they've got more chance of not losing the game. I'm confused where you're coming from.
No, I never said that at all. I would just rather keep the first team guys as far away as losses as possible. So if that means if they play a 90-minute game, a slugfest, and they lose 2-1 or 3-1, I think that's a lot more taxing, and the fans are going to get on their back a lot more than if he has to come out and say, look, I'm playing the kids. My sole focus is on Europa League. I believe that when you do lose in that circumstances, that all the crowd are not going to be on the team. They're all going to be booing at full time because he's come out and stated what he's going to do. He's come out and made everything very, very clear to what is going to happen.
You do know we play Bodo Glimt in 10 days. How taxing could a game against Nottingham Forest be for these players that it's going to affect them in 10 days' time? How fragile are we?
Are you talking about
this season, very?
Yeah, but 10 days. 10 days.
Are you talking about the way we perform as a team?
I'm just talking about the losses, mate. I haven't said anything about performances or injuries. I only said that one.
Because are you just thinking that we're going to go back to Angepostecoglou today?
Yeah, 100%. We know it's going to happen.
That's the thing. This is the thing. This is the thing, Savva. This is what I'm hearing from James. I don't agree with him about the whole thing about the first thing, because I think we should be playing our first team, right? Because I think it's changed now. The whole thing now has changed for me. Now we've got to the semi-final of the Europa League now, because especially the black performance on Thursday, for me to believe that he's changed the way that he thinks, I want to see this same mentality against Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. For me, right?
Exactly.
What he's saying. Exactly. I don't think he believes. I don't think he believes. I don't think James believes from what he's seen before. And this is where I'm skeptical. That's why I'm saying I need the real Tottenham Hotspur to please stand up, because I don't know. From what James is saying, I think he's thinking, you know what,
Alex, I understand what you're saying. I'm
not
just trying to make it make sense.
I'm not trying to tie him in. I'm just saying. I'm
defending
James. I'm defending James. I'm defending James to a point. Don't get used to it, James. I'm really being nice to you here. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be an olive branch here. But the point I'm making is, I see it from James's point of view. Sorry to interrupt.
But again, even even people like Van der Ven are saying, ask the manager why I'm not playing. Players want to play. I don't feel like anybody work in professional sport, right? Nowhere will anyone tell you a 2-week break before a game is a good idea for footballers. You wouldn't have someone like Usain Bolt saying, yeah, I don't want to do any running before I have a big final in 2 weeks. You can't just wheel people out and expect them to go to be brilliant. I don't understand what's happened to us.
I don't understand where people think that we're going to get results for. What are we going to gain by playing our strongest team? Tell me what we're going to gain.
Because the players need the minutes. You've got to keep them fresh. You've got to keep them playing.
That's not what I asked. What are they going to gain? What are they gaining? We've lost every week so far.
I've just
so
told
they're
you.
going to feel fresh, yeah? That's what we're...
James, you can't wrap them in cotton wool for 2 weeks and then just wheel them out. Why? When has that ever worked? Who does that?
I personally would. That's what I would do. I would go with our youth art and our fringe players, and I'd save it because there's a lot more in depth. Like I said, even just the players getting onto their backs. There's so much fans getting onto the players' backs. I could just do without it. Just come out and say we're going to play the youth. We're going to do what we're going to do, and it's all full focus on.
You couldn't even name a youth team.
You
couldn't name a youth team. You put in loads of
team then. Yeah, but you're picking out certain words. All right, sorry, not youth, fringe players. There we go.
Right,
that
okay,
solves
so
that
the
debate.
fringe players. Okay, so we put out the fringe players against Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. Who's on the bench? Which 9 players are on the bench?
I'd have to get the squad up to have a look. But I did go through it. No, but I did go through. I gave you the answer a minute ago, and you kind of went, "Yeah, but then you're playing Timo Werner, and you're playing." So you've heard my answer. You just disagree with it, and now you're trying to kind of trip me up with things who's on the bench.
Which 9 are on the bench?
Look at the squad, mate. I'd pick the kids. I don't care about the Premier League. Pick the kids. Pick under 21s. Go to the youth teams. Pick up the under 21s. The Premier League is done. There's no difference for me. 17th and 15th. All this weak mentality. I'm sorry. You're so much more. You're more mentality. You're more driven than me because you want to finish 3 places above. I would rather win Europa League. Everything I've seen so far this season has justified nothing to do with starting. Consistency doesn't exist. Form doesn't exist.
That's a lie. That's a lie. Where did I say I don't want to win the Europa League?
I never said you didn't. I said that's what I want. I never said you don't. I never said you don't want to win the Europa League.
Yeah, but James, we play in. It's a 2-week gap. Like you're making out like we're playing Bodo Glimt on Thursday night. We've got 2 Premier League games before this semi-final.
I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about the rest of the season. I'm not talking about the next 2 games. I'm talking about the rest of the season. It's done for me. There is no emotional attachment. Of course, I want to win every game, but I would get more justification out of seeing.
You don't.
Right, I want to. Okay, I want to lose every game. I want to lose. Yeah, you're right. I want to lose. I want to lose every game. I want us to put out teams.
If you're advocating, right? You're advocating putting out a very weak 11 and then saying I want to win every game. I'm saying I want to win every game. Put your best team out there. Give them the best chance. Carry on from Thursday. Drill them into this is what we do. This is what we are. Otherwise, like Alex said, all of the compliments that we got on Thursday, all of the apology forms for Ange and Ange can adapt. It doesn't mean anything if we just go back to type.
Yeah, so I agree with half of what you said there. I agree with half about drilling in the whole different momentum and the tactics. I agree with all of that, but it ain't going to happen. I'm looking at this as a base from Angepostecoglou. We're going to play the next. How is the first team playing the next 2 games? Losing the next 2 games, getting beat probably quite badly, being booed off and sweared out by our fans. How is that going to benefit us?
Why getting beat quite badly? Like, why? Surely this is the
you
whole
always
point.
say about consistency and TikTok. Look at the last season. Look at the whole of the season. Look how we just lost to Wolves. Look how we lost to Liverpool last time.
So this is the manager's job to get that 11 and go, guys, in 2 games time.
If only.
In 2 games' time, we have a massive semi-final, right? You guys need to go into that firing. You guys need to go into that pumped and hyped up. Go out there tonight. Show me what you've got against Nottingham Forest at home and dispatch them, right? You've then got Liverpool. Sure, Liverpool could batter anyone. Sure, I get it, right? But Leicester got a good 1-0 defeat to them. That sounds mad saying a defeat. Leicester held them to a 1-0, right? Why can't we do that, right? On one hand, we're talking about winning the Europa League. On the other hand, I'm being told that we can't win any games in the Premier League. I'm so confused as to where we are.
So I'll answer your question. The reason why we can't do that is because of Angepostecoglou. That's the reason we can't beat them 1-0.
I just don't understand. God, I wish we had some pro footballers we could talk to. None of them would want to sit on a bench for 2 weeks. None of them would say that what you're saying is good for them. None of them
will want to lose the next 2 games either. But you're throwing arguments that are irrelevant.
I'm not throwing on, but that's such a stupid thing to say. That's such a, neither would want to lose both games. They're going to be in the squad regardless, James. They're going to play minutes regardless in the next 2 games. It doesn't make sense. They're not going to be, like you're saying, they're going to be wrapped in cotton wool and not get minutes. They're both going to get plenty of minutes in the next 2 games. So you might as well play them.
Yeah, but again, that's not what I'm saying. I said I wouldn't play them at all. And now you're saying, but they're going to get minutes. Well, then there's no point listening to what you said about what I would do, because you're changing the fact that I said what I would do to what Angie's going to do. Because if Angie's going to do what he's going to do, then just like we said, and I agreed with you, what he should be doing is working on how we played against Frankfurt and going forward like that. And if that is the case, like I said at the start, if that is the case, then I'm all for us playing our strongest team and building like that. But I just don't get what anyone is seeing in this Angepostecoglou guy and system to say.
You know why? Because we keep rotating. That's my, James, this is my whole point. You've seen your best 11, which is what we put out on Thursday night. Is that fair? Give or take Son, who would be in it, whether we want him or not, he is in the best 11. He's the captain. He will play. Is that fair, guys? That's the best 11?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you can argue Kulu, Maddison, blah, 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 right? My whole point is that if that is your best 11 and you want to build some consistency for the first time in the Premier League with your players fit, this is the time to do it before the big games. Get them in, build their confidence, build their momentum, whether it's winning the game or not, or playing together. But what you're saying is, no, let's take a great performance against Frankfurt, rip it all up, not play these players anymore together, and then we just put them back out in 2 weeks and go on, repeat it. I've never known anyone talk like that.
Like I said to you at the start, I completely agree with building the momentum, and what we should have done is taken the Frankfurt victory and built on it. I've never said anything other than I agree with that. But what I am saying is I've never seen Angepostecoglou all season do that. And an example from my point of view would be that moment for me was the moment that all these players come back from injury. That is when you start building. You've been saying about it. You've been banging the drum. When they come back, we're going to build momentum. We're going to go. They all come back. No momentum was built. It got worse. And then we're here. So for me, ultimately, of course, I want us to put our strongest team and win every game and build momentum and go into that off wins.
Then why not
I just don't believe, because I don't believe that Angepostecoglou is going to do that. I don't believe he's going to do that.
See exactly what James is saying.
No, but it's what I'm debating. It's what I'm debating, because I'm going on the circumstance that Ange's in charge. So that was my whole argument all the way from the beginning. It was, if Ange's here doing what he's doing, then I'll just rest them all. Like I've said to you loads of times when you said, but we need to build momentum. We need to work on Frankfurt. I agree. I've said that the whole way through. I agree. It's not going to happen. Ange has showed me 0% of anything to say that he's going to do that.
I know it's not going to happen. We agree on that part. But the whole wrapping them all in cotton wool for 2 weeks, honestly.
Well, I think that's what Angie's going to do. I think that's what Angie's going to do. I think that's what James is saying, which I actually agree with, to be honest with you.
I understand that. I understand that. But for anybody in the chat saying they would wrap these players in cotton wool for 2 weeks, please never, ever work in professional sport. Please, this is not how it works. So when James is saying to me, I'm making that up, I am not making it up. Professional sportsmen do not want to rest for 2 weeks before big games, before any games. They would want to be playing so that they've got minutes. Look at Van der Ven, the way he answered the question last week about not playing. Look at the way he answered it. Don't ask me. Don't ask me why I'm not playing, i.e., I want to be playing. It's any fan that doesn't want these people to play for 2 weeks doesn't understand the body. The body...
Again, you're kind of like twisting the words. I never said I never wanted twisting the words.
What you said. Yeah, the body is not a machine. The body is like anything. It has to be oiled. It has to be in a rhythm. You can't wrap players in cotton wool for 2 weeks and then just bring them out and go on, be at full speed for a massive game. That's not.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
When players come back from injury, they're not the same. They need time to get back up to speed because their body needs to get into match fitness. It's madness.
But I said the whole way through, I agree with that. I don't know why you continuously said that, because I've said I agree with that the whole way through.
But you've said that you.
I've said the whole way through about what
them.
Ange is going to do. Yeah, because I don't believe that Ange's system and Ange's tactics are going to benefit us in any way, shape, or form in the next two games.
I understand that. I understand that. But for the players to play together for consistency, that is what is needed.
I agree.
What's needed.
But what consistency have you seen this season and last season that I haven't seen?
I didn't say had, but now all the players are fit. They're all back fit, other than Son. Right? They're all fit
for ages. They've been fit for ages.
Sure, which is why I wouldn't have done. See, again, a case in point. Look what he does at Wolves. It didn't work. Look what he did at Wolves. It didn't work. He's resting players for these big games, right?
It did work, though, because we went through against Frankfurt, so it did work.
Hang on. Wolves battered us, right? He then brought on all these players you're talking about. But didn't. Hang on. He brought on Bergvall. He brought on Bentancur. He brought on Kulusevski. All these players that were meant to be wrapped in cotton wool came on because we were being battered. So it doesn't matter whether they're playing bits or not. Just play them. It doesn't matter. You might as well play them. And if one picks up an injury, one picks up an injury. That's life. You can't just wrap everyone in cotton wool.
I think it's kind of been taken way out of context, because I've never once said wrap all in cotton wool. I don't want them to play. I've never said that at all. No, I never. I said what I would do, because of Angepostecoglou is here, is I wouldn't let him on the pitch, because he's fucking suicide. He's absolute suicide. So I don't get how losing the next 2-3 games in a row is going to benefit our team. It hasn't worked all season. We've lost consistency.
They're going to be playing. But they're going to be playing. That's why what you said didn't make sense. They're going to be playing.
Like you said, he rests players at Wolves. He rests players at Wolves, and we beat Frankfurt. So it did work.
But hang on. Christian Romero played the full game against Wolverhampton Wanderers, right? Did he not?
Yeah.
Right. Christian Romero played the full game. Bergvall came on. Bentancur came on. Kulusevski came on. All of these players came on. So all of this wrapping them in wool so they don't have to play minutes and risk injury, they came on.
I never said injury again. You keep saying wrapping them in cotton wool so risk injury.
You actually did.
I only said that in a reply to what you said. I never said I would not play him because of injury. Did I say that?
This is madness. This is absolute.
There's nothing madness about it. Listen, if we had any other coach in charge, I would be fully on your way. I'd be fully, play every game, minutes, tactics, philosophy, style. Let's go. We have Angepostecoglou. I don't get how people are going to say the next 2 games, it's all about momentum. These guys are being booed off and screamed off at full time. They're coming into the crowd. Managers are arguing with people in the crowd. How is that going to benefit us if we lose 3-0 with our first team against Forest? Then we lose 5-0 to Liverpool.
How do you ever get momentum if you don't ever play them?
It ain't going to happen with Angepostecoglou. We ain't getting momentum with Angepostecoglou. I've accepted that. And if you think that we are, please enlighten me on how, because we've seen 2 years of it and it's never happened. When was the last time we won 3 games in a row? What momentum have we gained from that?
I'm not saying we have. But I'm saying we're about to go into a massive game. You're going into a massive game. You want to go in off the back of them not playing for 2 weeks? Cool. That's fine. That's fine. Just not how sport works.
Again, I want is a completely different thing. I don't want any of this. I don't want Ange here full stop. I want us to be working on the style we played at Frankfurt. I think we've got the best attacking or counter, not the best, but one of the better counter-attacking teams in the league, to be honest. I think we could go with a flat back 5 and hit people on the break. That's what I would like to see. But I'm judging my opinion and what I'm seeing from the eyes of Angepostecoglou, what I know has happened. Like, it's not what I want to do. People, even in the chat, people saying there's no winning mentality. Listen, the winning mentality would have been firing Ange a year ago. That's the winning mentality that we should have had.
Sure.
I don't see what people are saying about playing. Keep playing them.
That's the problem. It's dripped into the fans. Like, as I was saying, right, we can talk all day long about league position doesn't matter. That is just such a defeatist
It does matter to me, though. It does matter to me. But under these circumstances, with Ange here, I can't see us winning anyway. That is my thing. My whole opinion is based on Ange being the manager. If Ange isn't the manager, I still want us to go out and win every week. There's no question about that. I just don't believe it's going to happen. So for me personally, I I don't even know what to say, because everything that I want and everything that I think is best for the team will never happen while Ange's here anyway. So I would rather him. I think that the way he's going to be fighting is from the point of view, because he's very smug and arrogant, in my opinion. The way he's going to want to do, the one thing he's going to want to do is win that Europa League. And I think on Thursday was the only time I think I've ever seen a bit of passion for him when that final whistle went. So for me, I believe that if he can do anything, it will be the Europa League. So I think that he would want to prove the fans wrong. I think he'd want to prove the media wrong. I think he's that kind of arrogant. Look who I am! I told you so. So for me, I think that we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. So I would rather keep them away from the first team, another couple of defeats down. I'd rather let the first team have a bit. Anyway.
This is where you're not making it. I'm going to stop. You're not making sense.
You just changed my whole conversation by he's going to play anyway. Well, then don't ask me what I think and what I think should do, because you're going by what he wants to do and he's going to do anyway.
No, James.
So your opinions are relevant because he's going to do it anyway.
No, James, you're missing a point. Try and understand what I'm saying.
I understand.
There aren't any extra players for these players you want to not be in the squad.
I've told you about 4 times. I gave you my starting 11, and then you went, I just did. How many more times?
So what 9 on the bench? What 9?
I just told you. The under 21s, the under 20s, the under 19s. I do not care. How many more times do I have to tell it to you? And now I gave it to you. You're going to poo-poo my argument because you don't like what I've told you. Now I gave you that.
Needs to be on our bench.
Yeah. Now I've gave you that argument. You're going to kind of pooh-poo it because you don't like what I've said. Which is, listen, that's down to you. But
because it's just so silly, isn't it? Like. It's just so silly.
It's silly. Let's play our first team and lose anyway. Like it's so silly.
We'll have our under 20s on the bench so that our players can sit there and get cold and not be ready for a semi-final. It's mad. I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. Let's move on. Let's move on. Listen, I'm a Spurs fan. I want the best for Spurs, right?
So do I.
I think that these fans deserve better than what you're asking for here. I think that, we need. I think the money needs to be made. People, we're going free league positions. It's nearly £10 million. When we don't buy a player, right? I'll tell you what. I'm going to remember this. When we don't buy a player because he wanted more wages, and people go, see, Levy won't do it. I'll remind everyone that was happy with finishing 17th. Money don't grow on trees.
Again, absolutely no one has said what you've just said. That's just a lie.
You said the games in the Premier League don't matter.
Who said to me, with Ange in charge, yeah. But I've never said that I don't want to win every game. I have never said I want to finish 17th.
You said the league don't matter. You said the league doesn't matter anymore.
To me, because Ange is in charge, yeah, because of that scenario.
Sure,
but to say I wanted to finish 17th is a lie, isn't it?
Okay, let me work this out. I'm just going to use pure, simple logic here. The league doesn't matter anymore. James agrees, yeah, the league doesn't matter anymore because Ange is in charge. But I never said I want to finish 17th. Well, if you're saying the league doesn't matter anymore and we just keep losing games with these under-20s that you want to play.
You gave 3 points there, but you missed out a massive point where I said I wanted to win every game, didn't you? You missed out the part where I said I want to win every game, didn't you? Well, I wonder, does that not fit your narrative? Is that why you didn't bring that part up into the debate?
How can you say the league doesn't matter anymore? I want to win every game. Let's play the under-20s. None of that can be the same thing. You do realise that. You can't have all 3 of those together.
No, because what I was saying is the way you're talking is like we're going to go on a beat Forest and we're going to go on a beat Liverpool.
No, I'm not talking like that at all.
What I would say to that, though, what I would say, you're talking about climbing up the league now. So what I would say is, can you show me any evidence or an example that you've seen that we're going to start creeping up the league now?
Hang on, I'm talking about if you're going to have any chance of getting higher up the league, you've got to play your better players. That's common sense.
Okay. No? So since February, when we've had all our players back, that's what we've been doing, because I thought we was higher. We've got our players back. We've played our strong. We've got our players back. I'm using your example against you. We've got all our players back, and we've actually gone down the league.
How does that work? I didn't say we have, but have you got more chance of winning games with your better players or your under-20s?
Well, so far, our fringe players have done better than our first team, our so-called better team. So we're going on facts and evidence. Surely it proves my logic is correct and yours. James, we've had all our first team down, and we're going to go down the league.
I'm trying to advocate changing what has happened and building some momentum, which is
I've agreed with that part.
But you can't when you turn around and say the league doesn't matter. The league matters.
I can't, even though I'm my whole opinion was based on Angepostecoglou being in charge. I made that very clear from the start. I said to you, I wanted us to win every game, pick up form, creep up the league. I said that. But with Angepostecoglou in charge, it's irrelevant. For me, the whole season's irrelevant with Angepostecoglou in charge. Nothing's going to change. I'm dead to all of that. I don't get how you... I don't get... Well, let me just say, well, it's the last thing. I don't get how you said, surely it gives us more of a chance by playing our best players. Based on what? Have you not seen our best players this season? We actually played better without them. I'm telling
you, based on getting them all fit and keeping them in the 11 every game. He keeps changing. He did at Wolves. He keeps changing the team. If you found your best 11, play it. Play it for the first time for 3 or 4 games in a row. I'm trying to advocate change, James, not keep with what hasn't worked, right? And when, as fans, were going, yeah, doesn't matter, Ange is here. Whether Ange is here or not, the league positions and the money you make from finishing higher up the league is very relevant. So as I said, when fans next year are talking about Daniel Levy's not done this, done that, just remember, we're all sitting here saying the league games don't matter now. Just play your under 20s, lose the games.
Again, I said the first thing I said. Let me just say one more thing. And then I'm done with the whole conversation. Like I said at the start of the conversation, I don't blame Daniel Levy for the last 2 seasons. I personally, I don't care about everybody on the internet that like to call me names in the chat, but ain't big enough to come on and say it to my face. I'm not bothered about that. But what I said at the beginning of the season, beginning of the stream, I don't blame Daniel Levy for anything this season. This is all on Ange. My opinion is based on what I've seen from Ange. None of this is based on what I would do, what I would like in charge, how I would play. I think we can all agree we'll build on the Frankfurt, but it's never going to happen.
So summing up very quickly.
But for me, Angepostecoglou is the problem. It doesn't matter what happens from here and in.
Levy is the problem. He's watched while Postecoglou has wrecked the club. I
agree with that circumstance. But I'm talking about the team playing on the pitch.
He's his problem because he's left Ange in charge, and he couldn't.
I agree with that completely. You know, I'm Levy out. You know all of that. But I'm talking about what we've experienced on the pitch. For me, what we've experienced on the pitch this season, Levy takes no blame for what we've experienced. James, like I said, he should have been sacked the start of the season.
James, your attitude is 13th, 17th, doesn't make too much difference, but we need to keep the players fresh and fit for the Europa League. Savva is saying we need to keep momentum from Frankfurt and keep that going.
I agree.
The truth of the matter is, guys, that what Ange is doing tonight is neither, because he's actually said he's making 5 changes. So that's what we're talking about. And for me, where I'm coming from is that if he's going to make 5 changes, then make the changes so that there isn't that much difference, and we go into the game with Forest with still with a strong team. Because for me, Spence actually makes it stronger. Kulu, Maddison, Madders is out anyway, so Kulu's in. I personally would have Richarlison instead of Solanke. I don't think there's a drop off there. And the other 2, I don't know. But for me, that's how I would do it, so that we go into the Forest game with the same sort of strength, because we have got 16, 17 players now, which we haven't had for some time, and they're all fit. So let's get into we should be discussing who we think the 5 changes are going to be, rather than Savva keeping momentum with the same 9 or 10, bearing in mind Manage is injured, and I think going the other way, James. So
yeah, so for like to end this all now completely is I want exactly the same as what you're wanting. It's not like I don't want that. I want us to build momentum. I want us to build on what we've got. I see 0 chance of that happening under Ange. So let's hope that we win every game till the end of the season. We win Europa League, and then he walks. That is the best scenario for all of us, and then we can actually start to potentially build in something for the future. That's the only thing I could see any light to.
I think we need to have a strong team today. Listen, it's the situation. The team selection and how we view team selection for Liverpool may change. If Arsenal don't beat Palace, Liverpool win the league, they'll be on the piss to hold for the next 3 or 4 days, and
Yeah.
you just, you know, they won't be as fired up to win the league in
You're
front
right.
of their own fans because they've already won it. So, you know, let's just sort of take it a game at a time. Let's get a strong team out tonight and let's win it. And then, you know, and then you'll have the other conversation in 2 weeks' time. What team do you play for West Ham on the Sunday in between the 2 games? So, you know,
could you argue that you were both actually right, but in different aspects of it?
That's what I was saying. That was what I was saying.
Actually, what James is saying, I get what James is saying. I get what Savva was saying. I'm just sitting here listening. It's quite nice to sit back and listen to it.
That's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying.
James saying, is the league irrelevant? Yeah, to an extent, you could argue, but we equally, whether we win, lose, or draw, we should be playing in the system that we played against Frankfurt. Whether or not we beat Forest or not, we should be playing the best team possible for that system. So, in a sense, that if we lose the game, we lose the game. But drilling the players into playing in that way is surely what we should be doing.
I can't stand
Just quickly,
this,
can I just want to apologise, Mark. I think I might have timed you out accidentally rather than someone else I meant to time out. If I did, I am very sorry you didn't do anything. Very, very sorry. Matt, go. I'll tell you what, do you want me to say something condescending? If you really want me to, I really, really can, mate. You're here the whole time watching my shows, all the time putting me down, paying me. Feel free. Keep going, mate. You're paying me, mate. Thank you very much for being rude about me. Thank you. Guys, just quickly, we've got 8 minutes left. Look, let's move on from that. Look, Tottenham Hotspur, Son. Let's talk about Son. That'll get James going for a little bit for the last 7 minutes.
What a crap show this has been.
So Andrew's come out and said that he's needed some time off for a while because of a bad foot injury and that he's not going to be available tonight, but he'll probably be back for the European games. Is this just excusing what's been a very underwhelming Son this year? Is there anything to this? And have we all been a bit too harsh on him? And as per, I don't know who said it yesterday, I think it was Nick, was saying that is this Son situation going to be like the Kane situation where it comes to the Europa games and the finals where we'll do everything without him and then he'll be straight back in and we go back to, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think Sonny's injury is possibly worse than they're letting on. I really do.
You think he's had it a while?
Or is it an injury? Because it for me, it something doesn't seem right with the whole Son situation. His injury was made into this small thing, but he didn't travel. It's like that they're using the injury card to cover something up that actually something's happened behind the scenes.
No, I just think it's what I think the injury is worse than they're letting on. And you know, if someone's got a bad injury, then he shouldn't be travelling to Germany. He shouldn't be travelling anyway.
I get that, but my point is it's not like it's Harry Kane, right? I can get it. I mean, this is a different Son we're talking about. This isn't a Son that was scoring like multiple goals, like, and consistently at a top level. He's a very different human Son. Like, I don't understand what covering up Son's injury does. Like, Son isn't the sort of player that right now that you go, he doesn't terrify anyone. Does he? Nuno isn't sitting there going, oh, I'm worried if Son's playing right now. Does that make sense? Like, so I would understand it if it was Gareth Bale, even Son from 3 or 4 years ago, Harry Kane's like.
But Perchie, the other week, Ange came out and said we've got no fresh injuries. I think after the Southampton game, and then when it came to Wolves, word was getting out that Odegaard had a hamstring, and although he put him on the bench, he was never going to play him, and he didn't play him. So you know what Ange says. I wouldn't take too much notice of it regarding injuries. I really wouldn't.
My only thing with Son is whether how bad the injury is now, there's more than enough support, strap in, and anything that they could do to make sure he's flying perfectly comfortable on his private jet over to Germany.
Sorry,
I personally
didn't
would
make
like
any
him
difference. It didn't make a difference, did it? What difference did it make? Sorry,
I personally,
if he needs treatment, if he's got to be in that treatment room Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then he stays at home and he gets treatment. Sorry. So you'd much rather have someone out there playing rather than oh great, push his recovery back a few days.
I've never said any of it. You're arguing. You're making an argument up for yourself. I never said any of that.
No way.
I literally just said I disagree, and then you kind of made up an argument that I didn't even say a word for. I said that there is enough supportive equipment now. He could be in a wheelchair while he's flying in his private.
Why put him in a wheelchair and send him away?
God, no, you do your own show, man. Crack on. Don't worry about my opinion.
Let's be fair. It's all relative. Like, we would know.
I literally said nothing about the man stepping onto a football pitch. Literally nothing, and you kind of made your own debate up about an argument.
You've been a big pain in the arse this show, James.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Let me just say my point. My point is, from a captain's point of view, you do not have to do anything relating football. I don't care if you don't walk, get in a wheelchair, terms of speech, get in one of those mobility scooters. I do not care. From my point of view, if I was captain, I would want to be there, leading my team on, supporting my team as captain. Nothing to do with football. Nothing to do with football.
I think what James makes a good point, though. It's all relative, right? Let's be fair. If this is an injury where he needs surgery and he needs, like, I get that, but we're none the wiser of what the injury is. We just got told he got a foot injury. Well, if he's had a foot injury, why couldn't he have travelled? Like, and I think that's the key bit. It's the unknown, and it's unfortunately is having not enough information creates us to go, well, what could it be?
There is information. He come out and said he'll be ready for the first game of Europa League. So that implies that the injuries are 2 or 3 weaker, which would imply that he don't need surgery.
Something doesn't add up. That's my point.
If we are actually choosing to listen to some parts and not the others, you can only listen to what we've been told. We've been told he's going to be ready for Europa League, which means there's not going to be treatment rooms, it's not going to be surgery, it's not going to be anything else.
Yeah, that's my point.
For me as a captain, I can only speak for me again. As a captain, I would want to be there fighting with my team. That's it.
James, let me ask you a question. How many times over the last few years have we had a player that's been injured and there's had treatment after 3 months it doesn't work and it goes for an operation? There've been loads.
But we've also had. I'm not talking about him playing, though. You're making up this thing about him playing. How's he going to get worse by coming and sitting on a bench? What's the difference him sitting on the bench and sitting on the sofa at home? My point of view, Harry Kane, for me, is not a very good manager in the respect of leading the team on the pitch. He's a very good manager as in, like, role model-wise. He was injured and he stood on the sidelines in that Champions League and supported from the side. What's your excuse there?
Well, I'll kind of just flip on to what James is saying. If we were sat in the top 6, flying, doing really well in the league, and there was no backstage problems at Tottenham, let's be fair, there has been. He would have been there. Surely something doesn't add up. Look, people can call me a conspiracy theorist, but I agree with James. Something doesn't add up with the whole. This
injury is worse than they're letting on.
You think, or allegedly?
That's what I think. If he was playing with an injury and it hasn't got any better, and he's aggravated it even more. So you've got an initial injury. He's carried on playing it with painkillers or whatever, and that's made it worse. Then obviously it's not a simple injury, is it?
But Ian, surely I would argue that. I know you want to wrap up, but
I've really got to wrap up.
What does Spurs benefit by covering it up? I don't get it. Son isn't this superstar at the moment playing to a level where you go, oh, we need to make sure that teams like Bodo Glimt aren't sure that if Harry Kane was playing, for example, like what I don't understand covering up Son's injury. What does that benefit?
Yeah, look, guys, We could do this on tomorrow morning show. Absolutely. Guys, just quickly, a couple of super chats. What I will say is this. I think we're going to find out a lot of things at the end of the season about a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot that comes out about Son, about Romero, stuff with Archie Gray not playing. I think there's going to be stuff about Mikey Moore. So we will see. Big up to Anthony Clark, as always, with a super sticker. Love you, dude. Thank you very, very, very much. Really, really appreciate you. Big up Mark Taylor. Absolutely. Don't worry. James Flower will one day learn that winning is a habit. Don't worry about that. We'll teach James. Don't worry. Thanks, Mark. Really, really appreciate you. Big up Anthony again. Just came in with a cheeky little super sticker. Love you, dude. Thank you very much. And Ian, you're absolutely spot on. But I just think it's about not giving Levy the ammunition to turn around and say there's no money there. So whether we finish 13th or 17th will make no difference to how much Levy spends. Dybala and Mane, prime example. I hear you. I do hear you. But I don't want to give him ammunition. What I would say is this, guys, it's funny. When people like James and I are having a big heated debate like that, we haven't fallen out. We don't hate each other. You lot all feel you need to pick a side. One of us is the devil. One of us is amazing, right? But you love watching it. You loved watching it. So enjoy those debates. Enjoy those conversations. You know what? We'll be back here tonight for the watch along, doing probably exactly the same thing. We'll be back here tomorrow, debating something else. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, James. Thank you, Perchy. Thank you, Lubo. Take care, everyone. And as always, Ange out, Levy out, Enoch out, James Flower out, Lubo out, Box Office out, Perchy in. He's my boy. And come on, you Spurs.